All right, I just watched 28 Years Later. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what I think about it, honestly. It retained the quirky, I guess the word would be quirky, offbeat editing style that was so distinctive in the original film. And the acting was very solid. Even the child acting, actually, the child acting was really, really strong, which I would argue was a weakness of the first movie. It had some great, great zombie sequences that were very intense and scary. The action horror segments I thought were really well done. Like in the first one, I thought it was shot in a very creative fashion, really interesting. And I liked some of its ideas. The world building was interesting. It almost had a Mad Max quality to it. It didn't go all the way there, which almost made it more off-putting because it was people were rational in some areas and completely insane in others. And the world building in some places worked and in some places just felt ridiculous. It there were aspects that just didn't feel believable, while at the same time it was clear that they were trying to make how that society worked believable and grounded. It I don't know. It took me out a bit sometimes where it just the whole premise of the story feels outlandish. They're like, oh, they just quarantine the entirety of the United Kingdom and just leave it like that for 28 years. I don't know. It rings as false. So kind of they're already off to a bad start with that. But regardless, I think the initial premise of it works. Like the kid and his mother and his father and that dynamic was very felt very real and worked, and you were pulled into that. But it had so many interesting ideas that they didn't explore, interesting characters that they didn't explore. Like they introduced this like guy from I guess Sweden who is from a place that's not infected and doesn't know all the things that other people know, and they had this opportunity to do almost something similar to how the protagonist of the original story was. The original protagonist of the first 28 days later, was in a coma and missed the initial outbreak. And so he was discovering the world that he fell into. And you had that opportunity to almost do a similar thing with that character. And they start to do that with this, character that's, now in this world that he didn't grow up with and he's, used to a normal life. But they drop that character way too fast. And then there's a doctor figure that was very interesting that they do things with strange things. Things that I was on board for at first and then turned stupid. Really stupid. I mean, I don't care if the kid's mother is crazy or dying or whatever. No mother written the way she was would leave their son like that. And because the kid was helpless during it, there was no tension during it. We just had to watch that stupidity happen in slow motion with no anticipation of anything else. I understand what they were going for, but what we got was ridiculousness. And then they just drop that plot line. And then there's a character that's introduced at the beginning that only shows up at the end and they don't do kind of nothing with. It's just a lot of ideas that kind of, I don't want to say they go nowhere, but they're almost isolated, kind of like the protagonist kid is going from one isolated incident and character to another, and the through line initially worked, but then at a certain point at the very end, you feel it resolving, and then it just kind of keeps going for another like 5 to 10 minutes, and the pacing of that just that was wrecked. The ending I was kind of on board for this whole movie until the ending. The ending made the whole thing feel not worth it to me. because what felt like the emotional core of the story, which is this kid and his relationship with his parents, and his very different relationship with his parents, felt like the heart and the center of it. And when you lose that, the story is done. Completely done. There is nothing. Any momentum the story did have evaporates, and you're left to wonder if the writer even understood what was holding his story together in the first place. The father relationship, you're like expecting a confrontation or a resolution or something. Like, is this figure going to be the antagonist? Are they going to resolve their conflict? Something needs to happen, but instead it just kind of stands in limbo, which is the worst possible outcome for the narrative to feel at all complete. And then it ends very abruptly. It kind of ends with a sequel bait. And I'm like, I'm sorry. You are the second sequel to a movie that ended pretty perfectly and didn't need a sequel to begin with. And now you have the audacity to sequel bait me? You think you're gonna get another one? What? No. End conclusively. Have a satisfying thing happen. That ending just was kind of, it just sort of ended. It's like, oh, this kid's adventures, is that what you're trying to set up? The only way you earn that is if the initial story of introducing these characters feel at all satisfying. And it kind of wasn't. This kid's character arc, I see elements of what they're trying to do, but it doesn't really work. I mean, the way it ended with him is frankly kind of stupid. He's a 12-year-old boy, and his sudden self-reliance and preference for staying out in zombie-infested woods just rings hollow. And then there's this child, oh my god, this baby, which reads to me as the writer playing a little too much Death Stranding. I mean, like, that baby was insane. Insane choice. And I'm not sure I'm opposed to it in concept. I'm not actually opposed. It's more that I don't feel like they utilized that correctly. Like, they didn't weave that in to the emotional narrative between the kid and his father or his mother. Like, there's elements of that. It almost feels cohesive, which is what's frustrating me, because I think this story is like so close to working and it doesn't quite. It's like it feels like it's going somewhere, and I was with it and I got it. I was like, okay, this I can see this, and it just kind of fizzles out. It's not like the ending's not bad exactly. It's just more like, what did I watch? I get a lot of its messages. I get the meaning. It's more that the core of the character's story felt incomplete. Not that it was going in a wrong direction or anything, it just didn't feel like we got the full story. I feel a bit cheated. I feel like I'm being harsh because I don't dislike the movie. I think I'm happy I saw it. It's more that it feels a little incomplete to me, but I liked watching it, and I thought it was worth watching for me personally. With that said, that might just be because I always learn a lot from examining flawed stories. But you tell me what you thought of 28 Years Later. Subscribe if you enjoyed this review. And if you want to read a different story with undead and destroyed civilizations, do check out my book Bonesong: Diary of a Sentient Sword. The first 10 chapters are free in the link below. Thank you to everyone who's been reading. The new chapter is up. Happy reading, and take care.